muqaddimah, because I'm dealing with this maqasid discussion in our writing, in our reading, in fiqh, is already, I think, since you can say about 10 years now. The basic things which people normally talk about in maqasid sharia, we are supposed to also go beyond that. So one of the interesting reading which was our Sheikh Al-Raisuni, who was invited by also IIIT, and we took part in his talks. Al-Raisuni, when he talks about maqasid sharia, he says that there are 3 types of Muslims, and it is important for all 3 of these type of Muslims to know maqasid sharia. So I will talk about this, then we will start the slide. Okay, so he says, Raisuni, that we have Muslims who are fuqaha, who are in the field of fiqh, mufti, mujtahid. Then we have Muslims who are mutadayyin, who are concerned about their own taqwa or their own religious practice. So these are the mutadayyin, Muslims who are concerned about their deen. And the third is the da'i, the people who are active in the work of da'wah. Now, all 3 of these, they should know maqasid sharia. They should know the objectives of the sharia. Now then, Raisuni talks about this. If you can get hold of Raisuni's, there is a small risala, small treatise, Madkhal ila Maqasid al-Sharia, by Ahmad al-Raisuni. This one, I am, inshallah, I am translating this work. We'll see, might be IIIT, if they agree, they can publish it. I'm about to finish this book. I'm translating it on my own because I found it very interesting, a little bit different from other scholars who are writing and talking about maqasid sharia. So Raisuni says that the mutadayyin, the one who is concerned about his personal religious practice, for him to know maqasid is because knowing maqasid will perfect his a'mal. For example, the Quran is very clearly telling us that salat, praying, is tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. That when we pray and we complete all the requirements in short term or in long term, the salat will assist the mu'min to protect and to stop him from bad deeds, other misbehavior, inappropriate actions. Salat will stop him from that. And we always hear this when people ask Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that a person, he prays but he is still stealing. He is a thief, but the Prophet asks, is he praying? Does he pray or not? So the people said, yes, he prays. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, his salat will stop him. His salat will soon stop him from that stealing and thievery action. Right? So and similarly, like paying zakat, Quran is very clearly telling us that when we pay zakat, it is purifying our wealth and also purifying our soul from this this element of stinginess, shuh, bukhul. So it is cleaning our own self from inside. Right? So when the mutadayyin, when the Muslim, when he will perform the ibadah, when he will perform the ahkam of the sharia with the awareness of the maqasid, he will be performing it in a perfect manner. Right? So this is Raisuni's approach, that why a mutadayyin, a religious person, should know maqasid. Okay, now let's go to the faqih, that the person who is dealing with faqih. Nowadays we have mufti's office, we have imams, people are asking them issues, scholars who are making decision regarding fiqh decision regarding new issues. So for them to know maqasid will provide them a better understanding and will prevent them from jumud, stagnation. Because sometimes we are so closed, we are staying in a third world, we are staying not even in third, we are staying in a middle Mediterranean time, and we are trying to apply that type of understanding of fiqh in this today's world, right? So there are many new issues arising, new things are happening, which you will see when we will start discussing after this maqasid. We are going to start the contemporary issues. We are going to talk about plastic surgery, we are going to talk about cosmetic surgery, we are going to talk about abortion, we are going to talk about artificial insemination. All these issues are contemporary issues. So if the fiqh scholar doesn't know the maqasid sharia, he will be stagnant, he will be rigid, right? So he won't be able to solve the contemporary issues. So that's why a faqih should know maqasid sharia. Now going to da'i, the da'wah people also sometimes they tend to be rigid. They for example, I'll give you example. If we are dealing with a new Muslim, there are certain things which are in the level of sunnah, not wajib, but then we will try to force them to perform that sunnah level amal, which for them might be very difficult on that starting stage of Islam, right? I still remember there was some misconception, some Hindu our brothers, they became Muslim, and then they came to me and then they said, Sheikh, we want to go back to our religion. And then I asked why. They said because other Muslim brothers are saying if we do not eat beef, then we are not pure Muslim. So then I had to explain to them that no, this is not the requirement of Iman, right? That to eat meat is not the arkanul Islam, arkanul Iman. So this is where people sometimes make mistake, because we do not know our own self. We do not know what is wajib, what is sunnah, what is mustahab. All right. So that's why maqasid sharia is very important. The ilm of maqasid sharia for the da'i. All right. So that they can their da'wah can be full of hikmah and full of basira. Right? So this is how Raisuni starts his book, this Madkhal ila Maqasid Sharia. All right. So this is a muqaddimah for you as well before we start this topic. All right. So what is Maqasid Sharia? All right. So literal meaning, Maqasid, it means it is maqsid, is plural, is maqasid. Okay. So literally it means purpose, objective, principle, intent, goal, and telus in Greek. All right. You can see there Zweck in German. So this is the literal meaning, right? So, and there is always, whenever I teach this in my class, I always highlight this point, and this is very good for you as well when you are teaching your classes, that we should always try to figure out the interconnection between literal meaning and the technical meaning. This is very important in definition. So that's why you will see the classical books, whenever the ulama, the fuqaha, our scholars, when they will deal with definition, they will start with the ma'na lugawi, the literal meaning, right? And from the literal meaning, then they will come to the istilahi, mana istilahi, technical meaning, and we need to have that connection. We need to know that connection. For example, for salat, for example, before the word salat was used in the Quran, the literal meaning of salat means moving the body. Salla yusalli means moving the body, shaking the body, right? But when the word salat was used in the Quran, it came with a new meaning. The meaning, the technical meaning was to move your body in a certain manner, in a specific time, with specific requirement, with the wudu, and with all those rukun and what do you call shurut and of salat. So it became a technical meaning, but that thin line, the co-relationship, al-munasaba, between the literal meaning and the technical meaning, that moving the body is still there, right? So this is very important, and this will also allow you to understand a process of Islamization, right? That when Islam is coining a term, even though it might be the same language, for example, salat before Islam is still Salla Yusalli, and then when Islam is coming and it is giving a new meaning to this term, right? So it's a language is still same, but you see that process of Islamization is taking place, right? So so that's why this is very important. When we are using these terms, that we explain to our students that how when the technical meaning is coined, how it moves from the literal meaning to the technical meaning, and how this is the Islamic version, the Islamic meaning coined and given to this new term. So all right, now going to the istilahi, the technical meaning. Maqasid is of the Islamic law are objectives, purposes, intents, or ends, principles behind the Islamic rulings, the ahkam in Islam. We have ahkam of muamalat, we have ahkam, hukum for how to buy and sell, hukum how to pray for ibadat. We have all these different types of rulings in Islam, ahkam, and these ahkam will have a purpose behind it, which will have a intent or end, all right, a principle behind it. So this is known as maqasid sharia. Okay, all right. It is an alternative expression to people's interest. Now there is another term which was used, like Izzuddin Abdul Salam, he uses the word masalih, maslaha, right? So maslaha and maqasid, these two terms are used interchangeably, right? So masalih means people's interests. For example, Al-Juwayni, Abdul Malik Al-Juwayni, he is one of the earliest contributors to maqasid theory as we know it today, used al-maqasid and masalih amma interchangeably, right? Because this Al-Juwayni is the teacher of Imam Ghazali. We also know him as Imamul Haramain, Al-Juwayni. So he used this term in a interchangeably, and also Imam Ghazali did the same later. Al-Qarafi linked maslaha and maqasid by a fundamental rule that stated a purpose, maqsid, is not valid unless it leads to the fulfillment of some good maslaha or avoidance of some mischief, mafsada. Okay, so therefore what did this leads to, that maqsid purpose, objective, principle, intent, goal, and or principle in the Islamic law is therefore there for the interest of humanity. Right. So if you want to read, this is our IIIT published this book, Jasir author's book, Maqasid Sharia, a beginner's guide. You can buy it from IIIT. They published this book, and you can read for those who are new on this topic. This is a good start. This book is a good start, and it can give you the know-how of this Maqasid discourse, right? So now coming back to our topic, before we go into this, I would like to talk about masalih, because since masalih and maqasid, they are used interchangeably. So I want you to take some notes on masalih, so that it will give you a better understanding, because as I think I have mentioned this before, when we are using the word sharia here in the class, sharia here is synonym to Islam. I am not using the word sharia in a very narrow meaning of do's and don'ts, or sharia in the meaning of sharia court, or which is only related to law. I'm not using this term sharia in that type of usage. I'm using the word sharia as the entire Islam. So it's synonym to Islam, right? So that means when we talk about the maqasid of sharia, when we talk about the maslaha of the sharia, we are talking about the entire Islam, right? So that means it will give you a better understanding that how Islam is concerned about the interest, the well-being, the welfare of the human being, right? So now when we talk about masalih, there are two types of masalih, or you can say objective. All right. So one is masalih, which is related to this world. There are certain objectives of the Sharia which wants to secure interest for mankind, which pertains to this dunya, to this world, right? So this is known as maqasid dunyawiyya or masalih dunyawiyya, okay? And or it wants to secure the interest for mankind pertaining to the ukhrawiyya, it should be here the afterworld, the akhirah. All right, so maqasid ukhrawiyya or masalih ukhrawiyya. Now there is something else here. When we talk about masalih, we have to keep in our mind the mafasid, the harm, the corruption, right? So that means each hukum, each ruling in Islam, there are two sides of it. It is either trying to secure a interest, a maslaha for the mankind, and that maslaha can be dunyawiyya or ukhrawiyya, or it is trying to protect the man from evil or from harm. And harm will be also same two types: harm of this world, dunyawiyya, okay, mafasid dunyawiyya, or from the harm of the akhirah, mafasid ukhrawiyya. Right? So it is, there are two sides of whenever we talk about objective, we have to keep these two things in our mind: masalih the interest of the mankind, the mafasid, the evil, the harm, the corruption. Right? Okay. Now we go a little bit. We take this mafasid and masaleh and mafasid to a little bit deeper level. In Islam, the interest, the masaleh, those things which will allow us to acquire masaleh is also masaleh. Now this is very beautiful, wonderful in Islam. Right? That one, we have the human interest, but all those things which will lead to human interest is also considered interest, masaleh. Right? Similarly, something which is corrupting the man, corrupting or harming or a shar for the man, for the mankind. So all those things which will lead to that shar, that evil, will be also evil. Okay. I hope you are taking the notes. All right. So there is one more thing I need to say before we can go to back to the slide. All right. So that means what I'm trying to say is those who are Arabic speaking people, that ma yufdi ila al-maslaha maslahatun. Okay. Things which lead to maslaha is also considered maslaha. Okay. Wa ma yufdi ila al-mafsada mafsadatun. Right. What leads to corruption, what leads to harm is also harm, considered also harm. That means the tool, the means which will lead to harm is also in Islam, it will also put it in that category, that that thing is also a type of corruption. Okay. Okay, so now people, scholars like Izzuddin and also Fakhrul Razi, they have another way to see the masaleh. I want to take this note as well, very interesting. That when we talk about masaleh, we are not talking about only the zahiri or the external benefit or interest for the mankind. The masaleh is on two types. So that's why we have these terms in Arabic are very important. Al-ladhat. Okay, al-ladhat. Now this type of masaleh is related to the external, which is related to our hunger, our food, our clothing, our desire, which is also in a way beneficial for the mankind. All right. So it is dealing with our senses, right? Hissi, or also called shahnawiya, shahwaniya. All right. So masaleh is, when Islam is saying that Islam wants to secure the interest, maslaha of mankind, it is talking about two types of maslaha. Maslaha, which is ladhat, which is related to our senses, all right, which is external, and also it is concerned about those maslaha which is internal, aqli. So the Arabic term for that is afrah. Okay, ladhat is hissi, it is external, and internal is afrah, intellectual, it is aqli, or it is ma'nawi. All right. So that means mental well-being. Mental well-being is example of afrah, which is internal well-being, not the external. Right. External well-being will be our proper clothing, food, shelter, nutritious food full of nutrition. All these are external interests, maslaha of mankind, but the internal is our mental health, our state of happiness, All right, all these are internal. So when Islam talks about securing the interests of mankind, it is talking about these both types of masalih. Okay, now let's go to the mafasid, the corruption, the harm, the evil. Okay, you can also what you can do is you go to back to my the recording when I was talking about the good and bad. Remember that it is recorded, you have it, the link is given by Sheikh Shahran. There I have talked about the concept good and bad. So you can apply this to and combine this discussion with that discussion there. So it will give you a better understanding the concept of good and bad in Islam. Okay. All right. So talking about mafasid, I hope you are following me, because today I am teaching a little bit more like a serious class, but I can see you, all of you are senior people, all of you are matured, you are not young people. So I think it is okay sometimes to go into this type of little bit technical, but is okay, inshallah, because you can use this in your classes, or you are doing the da'wah work, it will give you some more substance. All right, so now talking about mafasid, the corruption is also, the harm is also on two types. All right, so when Islam says to secure and to protect, to preserve the mankind from evil, from shar, from corruption, it is talking about two types. One which is external, hissi or shahwani. All right, the Arabic term for this is al-alam with the hamza, okay, or alamun. So alamun in Arabic refers to that type of pain or that type of harm which is external, related to our external dimension. Okay, so related to our desire, related to our lower desires. All right, sometimes people, they tend to harm themselves. So that's why, for example, Islam will say stay away from zina. Why? Because Islam wants to protect you from this evil. It wants to maintain, sustain your chastity. All right, so it is trying to protect you from a evil, which is from a shar, from a harm, which is related to our external desire, hissiyun. All right, and the other side type of mafasid is internal, ma'nawi, or aqli, and this one, the Arabic expression is al-ghumum, gham. So that's why when you see the dua of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is the dua for the morning and the afternoon? Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi or min al-gham. All right, all these are types. They are not just simple type of corruption or harm or evil. They are internal and external. So Islam is trying to preserve, to protect mankind from this internal and external harm, and also on the other side, the maslaha, internal and external benefit, interest. Okay, so now come back to the slide here. So we go here. How do we determine, who is to determine what is in man's interest? All right, so there first is Allah and His Messenger. That means the lawgiver, the Sharia. All right, the lawgiver will tell us what is good, what is bad for us, for the mankind. And the other way to determine is by ijtihad, intellectual reasoning. All right, but in this case, our ijtihad, our intellectual reasoning, that means our induction should be harmonious, in line with the divine. Okay, so that's why in our worldview, the absolute source of knowledge is Allah and Rasul, and all other source of knowledge, our intellect, our pragmatic sciences, all these are complementary to the absolute. All right, so we are not denying all other sources, which is wrong. All right, we are not denying all other sources of knowledge, but what we are saying is that all other sources of knowledge have to be in line, in accordance with the knowledge which is absolute from Allah and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, all right. So akal can also, we can also think, we can ponder, we can look into, we can do ijtihad and find out what is the maqasid, what is the maslaha for the man. But that maslaha have to be in line with the maslaha which is said by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. Now there is one way to classify. There are many classifications, so please, not one classification is like the final classification. So when you are dealing with Maqasid Sharia, when you are teaching Maqasid Sharia, you have to be careful. Sometimes one classification. All right, so this is where we will have a problem in understanding Maqasid. Now, this is one way to understand Maqasid. One way to classify Maqasid is to the classification of interest pertaining to its compliance with Sharia. All right, criterion for evaluating the acceptance of interest. All right, so here we have explicit. Number one is acknowledged interest, al-maslaha al-mu'tabara. Right? That means this maslaha is acknowledged by Quran and Sunnah either directly or indirectly. So this is one classification. A maslaha which is mu'tabara, all right, which is considered, acknowledged by our books, by our Quran and Sunnah, and this is either explicit or implicit. All right, explicit, like I was telling you the example of where inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. This is explicit, clearly telling you the salat is going to achieve for the purpose, the end of salat, the ibadah is to perfect our moral state, which we discussed in the early. You can see the videos in the recording that why we need to know, be careful about our ethics and morality in Islam. So there we talked about this, right? So it's very explicit. Zakat, explicit, all right? Implicit, we have to sometimes, like, not directly but indirectly. That means basing on qiyas or basing on ijtihad, we can talk about a maslaha, all right? So that is also mu'tabara. Second is rejected interest, maslaha al-mulgha, all right? This is, and how it is mulgha, how it is rejected, either explicitly or implicitly. All right. For example, why we have to stay away from riba, from consuming riba. Okay, suhat. All right. It is a type of najas. It is a type of injustice. So Quran is telling us. All right. And so that so people might be considering it as a type of benefit to involve in riba, all right, but then Quran is saying that that type of intent, that type of objective is rejected. Okay, so to unjustified maslaha, okay, interest which is rejected. Okay, Um, Now the criterion, how do we evaluate the maslaha or the maqasid, the objective, the intent of the hukum? There are three levels. All right, so the criterion for evaluating the importance of the maslaha, interest, all right, there are three levels. We have number one, the necessities of daruriyat. All right, so that means basic requirements for the survival and spiritual well-being of individuals and societies. Its destruction will lead to seriously affecting human life, basic human rights, demise of normal order, chaos in the society, right? So, so maslaha is on the level of darura, all right? It is called the daruriyat, which later you will see that this daruriyat, this level is 5 types, which we normally hear. The preservation of what you call the religion, the preservation of lineage, all right, preservation of wealth, preservation of life, all right, all those 5 will be coming inshallah soon. So this is like the degrees, the 3 degrees of the maslaha. All right, so this is number 1. Number 2, hajiyat, those interests which are needed to support the necessities, remove severity and hardship. Their absence does not impose a threat to the very survival of normal order and basic human rights. All right, but it supports the darura. Okay, and then number 3 is complementary interests, tahsiniyat, to attain perfection and refinement in human life. Okay, all right. Now let me give you example so that you can understand what we are talking about. All right. Now before I'll come back to this slide, let's look at this. All right. The basic rights, or we call it the daruriyat al-khams, okay, the daruriyat khamsa, the 5 essentials, which is ad-din, all right, religion, we have life, hayat, we have intellect, aqal, we have lineage, family, nasl, and we have property, al-mal. All right. Now there is a 6th one as well, which sometimes people will add, which is dignity, al-karama. But some scholars, they will subsume it under lineage, nasl. Right, so they will say karama is part of lineage as well, but for some scholars they will spell it out that actually there are 5 essentials that we have. I call it 5 plus 1. The dignity, human dignity, is a basic right. The daruriyat, the daruriyat of human being. Okay, all right. So the Sharia, the Islam, is always the hukum. You will see that the hukum is always trying to preserve these essentials. All right, or it is trying to protect the mankind from harm in relation to these 5 things. Right, so as I explained that whenever we talk about maqsad, when we talk about objective, we're talking about 2 things, maslaha, and also we're talking about mafsada. All right, but then here, so now I talk to you about these things with some examples so that it gives you better understanding. Right, so when we say that the maqsad of Islam, the purpose of Islam, the intent of Islam, of Sharia, is to preserve the religion. To preserve the religion, what it means? It means two things. Either it is saying, we use the word jalbul masalih, to acquire the maslaha, or daf'ul or dar'ul mafasid, preventing something which will eliminate or something which will damage the religion. All right, so that's how the mafsada, the maslaha and mafsada, both sides of this two dimension comes together when we talk about preservation. Hifz, hifzul din, hifzul hayat, hifzul aql, hifzul nasl, hifzul mal. All right, so whenever we talk about preservation, whenever we talk about hifz, preservation or protection, then we are talking about these two dimensions. One where we are saying that the hukum, the Sharia is concerned about acquiring the interest, things which is going to support, things which is going to establish religion, establish our deen. Okay, and on the other side, Islam is also, when we say protection from mafasid, that protection, it means preservation here. It will mean that Islam is also going to tell us, teach us how to eliminate all those elements which will harm the religion. Okay, which will oppose the religion. We are supposed to stay away from those things. All right, so similarly, we go to hayat, life. Okay, when we say preservation of life, all right, so so the ruling of Islam will be always in line with protecting the life. How? That we'll say eat halal food or tayyibat. All right, cannot a person cannot be in a hunger. He have to eat food. So it is a ruling in Islam that you have to eat food. So it is trying to preserve life. And similarly, all those things which is going to eliminate life, the Sharia will come and make it haram. For example, abortion. Abortion will eliminate the life of the child. All right, so Islam will say not permitted. All right, haram. Similarly, suicide. Why suicide is haram? Because suicide is eliminating life. Qatl, killing. Killing, the Quran is saying one man kills another is like he is killing the entire mankind. He kills the entire humankind. He kills the whole civilization. Right, so why? Because Sharia is concerned about protecting, eliminating that mafsad, so that it can maintain life, it can preserve life. All right, intellect, aql, all those things which will help our aql to to perform in a good way, Islam will encourage us. But then on the other side, Islam is saying drinking is prohibited. Why? Because it will give us it will intoxicate us, and intoxication will damage the aql, the intellect. It will disturb the thinking process of the mankind. So you can see it is also concerned about eliminating all those elements which is going to harm the aql, harm the intellect. Okay, lineage also. Sometimes we have a very narrow understanding. Actually, nasal here is not only about lineage. Actually, is concerned about the whole entire the family institution. Right, so that's why Islam is very concerned about all these rules regarding adoption, all these rules about changing names, all these rules about the child should be born with this proper akad nikah. All this is actually is meant to preserve the whole family institution. Okay, so zina is haram. Why? Because it disturbs this. It disturbs the family institution. All right. All other things which is disturbing and in a way obstacle for the family institution. So then those things will Islam will say not permitted. Right. Mal, wealth is very important element and one of the essentials of mankind, and people can if there are no ruling in no ahkam in Islam, then what will happen? People will be killing each other. So that's why Islam comes in and gives us a set of rulings, and these rulings are the objective of these rulings is to preserve the property of a man of the mankind. Okay, so all those, that's why the riba is haram, because riba is opposing, is eliminating and damaging this essential element of the man. Okay, it is unjust. That's why hoarding, you will see later, we'll be talking about a little bit on hoarding. People they hide the stock somewhere until the price will go up, and then they open it in the market. All these are prohibited in Islam because it will eliminate, it will harm, it will damage this property and wealth of the mankind. Okay, so now let's go. Now this I have told you with some examples. Now go back to again to the 3 levels where we said that each one of this maslaha of this maqsad, they are on 3 levels. So first level was daruriyat. Okay, all right, life, one example. To sustain life we need food, right? So that means eating food only to be alive, that is daruriya, that is daruri, necessity, on the level of necessity. All right, but then if the same food which we are eating, we add some more, we cook it in a proper manner, all right, or we add some vegetables to it, or we have a place or time to eat, so that will go into the hajiyat. So that means this hajiyat is supporting the first level. Then we have the third level, this tahsiniyat, is where we talk about the table etiquette, we talk about eating with fork and knife, we talk about the nutrition, foods which are really good nutrition, food which doesn't have nutrition, calorie, all this is coming on the level of tahsiniyat. All right, that means it is perfecting, but if someone doesn't go for that level, still the person is alive, right, but that quality is not there, right? So this how we have to see that these 3 levels, this how it works, right? So this is like grades of each what you call preservation of life. So we will have preservation of life, which is daruri, second level hajiyat, third level tahsiniyat. Okay. Now, when we look at these 5 things, all right, now the question will arise, how do we give priority to these 5? Okay, so this hierarchy which you can see here, we have deen, then we have hayat, life, then we have aql, then we have nasal, and then we have mal. All right. This is what these slides are explaining here. All right. That so the benefit of this classification is to resolve any conflict between these different categories of maslaha, categories of interest. All right. So that's why we have this 5. Why we are classifying it into 5? So that it's easy when these 5, if one is conflicting another, this classification will help us to decide which one to give priority. All right. So the rules of conflict and priority. Number 1, the strongest interest shall prevail. All right. So in Islam, all right, that although all the necessities should be observed, promoted, and protected, in case of conflict, they should be taken according to the following order. We have the ruriyat, all right, have priority over the hajiyat, which in turn have priority over the tahsiniyat. All right. So this is one way to avoid the conflict. Then the 5, deen has precedence over life. All right. So religion, because if religion is the reason why in Islam deen is having the top priority is because all other masaleh, all other the life, the intellect, the property, all this can only take place if our deen, our religion is strong. Now, very interestingly, that now even the Western scholars are now accepting this, that those communities, those societies where they have religion in place, then all other part of their life is in harmony. Even today, if we want to achieve peace, unless our religious institution is not in place, we cannot have peace. And we are talking about not only the external peace, we're talking about the internal peace as well, the man himself. Man within himself. We always talk about man, his interaction with another human being. This is second level. The first level is man himself. Are we in peace within our own self? And that is only can be achieved through religion, by deen. So a man, when his deen is preserved, his deen is perfected, then this man is now, he have achieved his inner perfection, then he will go for peace with another human being. Otherwise, it will never happen. All right. So that's why in Islam, deen is given the top priority. The deen is having precedence over life. Then religion is also having precedence over intellect. All right. Religion precedence over property. Okay. Life has precedence over nasal, abortion. That's why when this conflict will happen, that the woman will ask for fatwa that her life is in danger. That the doctor has also done the research and given the prescription that if the child, if the pregnancy continues, the life of the mother will be in danger. Then there's the time the fatwa will come that she can abort the baby. Why? To preserve the life. So life is taking its precedence over nasal, preservation of lineage. Okay. Life has precedence over aql, right? Drinking wine, drugs for medical purposes, right? There is no other choice, and that medicine can only be made from wine, for example, and the medical doctor has done the research, and in that case, since all right, that the main concern here is preserving the life. So even though that medicine will intoxicate the guy, all right, like it happens with us, right? When we go to the doctor and when they give us cough mixture, and the doctor will say, you do not drive because this will, intoxicate you, this medicine, so you better stay home. but there, so that intoxication is compromised because life, preserving life is more important. Okay, akal has precedence over wealth. All right, for example, uh, when it comes to wealth accumulation, and then we have also akal, issue of akal. Education is very important. Education is the tool to preserve intellect, right? So that's why it is wajib for the child to not only for the child to go to primary school, but also for the child to go to preschool. The pre-education is very important for the child, because if the child doesn't go through that, then the child is not productive, the child is not creative in thinking. All right, his psychomotor and all these are affected because parents did not send them to the preschool or to the daycare on time, because before class 1 there should be some kids have to learn some other things, some activities which can what do you call this, simulate their thinking process. So this is their haq, the child's haq. Right, so this is this will be given preference over wealth. The parents cannot say, oh no, this is very expensive, no need. No, that is not the approach of Islam. All right, so that will be, so this how we have to understand when this conflict starts between this the five essentials. So this is how you will understand. Huh? Okay, now these are based on this giving preference between when conflict arises between among these five essentials. These are based on some of these maxims, some of these qawaid fiqhiyah. Committing the lesser of two harms. Yukhtaru ahwanish sharrain. When we have two evil, and so we sometimes we need to choose the lesser evil, because we are concerned about, for example, the example of that medicine made from wine and life. All right, so now we have life is in danger, someone is sick, all right, and then the medicine is haram, which is going to harm our aql. So these are two shar, all right, two harms. But then we have to choose the lesser one in order to protect the to stay away from the bigger problem. All right, so in that case the bigger harm is sickness of which can put the life in danger. All right, so we'll have to take the smaller one. All right, which was in that case drinking medicine made from alcohol. All right, so another one, necessity dictates exception, necessity overrules prohibition. This is another maxim in Islam. Ad-darurat tubihul mahdhurat. All right, so whenever necessity arises, then things which are prohibited will become permitted only to the extent that necessity stays. For example, if there is no food, someone is lost in the jungle and he have to survive, and in that case the only thing which he has in front of him is pork, so he'll have to eat the pork for the purpose of survival. So their necessity will overrule the prohibition. Okay, that which became permissible by necessity is estimated by the extent thereof. Right, so until that necessity stays, as soon as the necessity state is over, then prohibition is back again. Okay, another one, avoiding harm is prior to acquiring benefit. Darul mafasid awla min jalbul manafi'. Right, so this is another maxim which is allowing us to, when it comes to this conflict between these five essentials. All right, so this is how we are using these maxims, we are going to give priority. Okay, Now, this another maxim very interesting here. The public interest is prior to the private. Okay, in Islam, this is see, the first one was what? Um, where is it? All right. Legal maxim govern the rule, and then this one, number 2, the public interest is prior to the private. So we have this maxim in Islam, in our Sharia, which is saying yutahammalul dharar al-khas lidaf'i dharar al-am. All right. So sometimes we will have to accept a specific harm in order to save from the bigger harm, which will involve everyone, general harm. Now, this is very interesting that when we look at the COVID-19 situation, this maxim is fitting perfectly, right? Taking preventive measures against people who are carrying transmitted disease. All right. So these are all examples of this maxim. Punishments, right? For example, if we do not punish the people who are doing crime, then that evil, that damage which is taking place through these criminals on the what do you call, societal level, on the national level, will be compromised. So that's why punishment is important. So khas, the specific harm which is given to in punishment, is for the sake of preventing a bigger harm. All right. And people know, may Allah save us from this musibah. People who have experience, you can ask them, when the thieves break in their house, especially those thieves who break in with the knives, with the weapons. All right, so they really harm people. They harm our women. They will take all the properties. All right, so you can see here, if this type of people is not stopped by giving them punishment, then that bigger harm will not be able to be prevented. Preventing unqualified professional from practicing. Right, that's why in Islam we don't want every this half doctors who doesn't have qualification. And this happened in KL, I think 2-3 years ago, when ministry traced, there were many medical clinics who were not having proper qualification to open a clinic and practice, and they gave wrong medicines, and people had complications. All right, so now this is to prevent a specific, so we have to give them, not allow them to practice. This is a specific harm, but in order to prevent bigger harm which will take place if we allow this type of people to practice. Prohibition of hoarding. Right, hoarding in Islam is prohibited. Hoarding, as I said, when people will stop the products in the market, the supply, in order to increase the price, to increase the demand. When the demand will increase, then they will change the price. They'll ask for higher price. But people, because they need it, so they will pay the money for it. Right. So now this is prohibited in Islam. All right. So these are example of committing specific harm for the sake of preventing general harm. So it might look very unfair that when we stop people from hoarding, all right, it will look unfair, but actually in the real sense it is meant to protect the bigger society from that bigger harm. Right? All right, this one I have already talked to you about, that how Sharia preserves the basic rights. I talked to you about the first Jalbul Masaleh, all right, that acquiring all those elements which will sustain, establish that the life, for example, or the nasal, or the property. So we acquire those. That also comes under the category of preserving. So here we are saying affirmative measures, right? And protective measures, daf'ul mafasid, where we eliminate, we prevent all those elements which will oppose or damage or destroy life or nasal or wealth or aql, right? So the first one is called affirmative measures, jalbul masaleh, and the second one is called protective measures, daf'ul mafasid. Okay, so now they are going to apply this. This will be easy for you because I already talked about it, right? Religion, deen. So affirmative measure, we have revelation, all right? So that's why we cannot compromise any fabrication. We cannot compromise any damage to the Quran, because that is our main source of the religion. All right, so we have to be very careful. We have to what do you call this, promote the hifz institution, the memorizing institution in Islam, because it preserves our revelation. It continues the transmission of the Quran from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam till inshallah future to our generation to come. All right, maintenance, continuous practice, da'wah, amar bil maruf, all these are affirmative measures to protect religion, to protect deen. All right, and protective measures, now we have two types of those things which is going to damage. All right, remember I was talking to you about the mafasid, which is on two types, the zahiri, the what you call the external and the internal. So when we are talking about protective measures, we are supposed to be concerned about both. All right, against insiders, punishment for neglecting religious obligations and apostasy, preventing evil. All right, all these are protective measures. This is for against insiders, those who are within the religion. Against outsiders, defending religion intellectually, with power, with independence, jihad. All right, all these are protection of religion from the elements which are from outside. Life, hayat, affirmative measures, we need to have creation, we need to have marriage, we need to have all those things which we need for life. All right, we need clothing, we need food, we need shelter. All these are required for life. All right, so that's why it doesn't make sense, all those people who are criticizing that we should not take part in SDG. It doesn't make sense, because that means they haven't understood this preservation of life yet. Right, these 5 essentials, if we want to maintain and protect these 5 essentials, we need to take part in SDG. And like the question which was posed to me as in the last class, all right, that our role, what is our role in protecting environment? It is related to this. We need to take part. We need to take part with even though the might be non-Muslims are the champion of those the whole agenda of climate change, environment and all, we have to take part with them. Otherwise, that means we are not doing this preservation of life. We are not doing preservation of religion, family, institution. All these means we are not taking part in it, right? So that's why it's very important, right? But yes, when we talk about SDG, we are talking about SDG in the light of our values, the Islamic values, right? So that means when we talk about gender equality, all right, we are not accepting lesbianism and all those things, but we are talking about gender equality from this Islamic values perspective, right? Okay. Maintenance, recall providing sustenance, maintaining good health. All this is affirmative measures to preserve life. All right, that means Muslims, like all other people taking part, that means Muslim countries also have to take part in searching for injection for COVID-19. They should not be just sitting there and waiting for all the other part of the world to work on that, the scientists working on it, and we sitting and doing nothing, all right, claiming them ourselves to be good Muslims. This have to change. All this have to change, right? Um, all right. Protective measures of preserving life, prohibition of any attack on human life. That's why Quran is saying no killing, okay, without any legal justification. All right, homicide, suicide, injuries, all these are prohibited. Okay, protecting nasal lineage. So you have affirmative. All right, I think I'm talking too much, but we go to the last one. You can read on your own. I will be giving you this slide also. So let's look at the last one before might be then Sheikh Shahran can tell us whether we have questions or not. Number 5, protection, preservation of life, property. Same, we have 2, right? Affirmative measures, protective measures. Affirmative measures, bounties given by Allah, we should be using it properly. All right, permission of trade and conducting business, private ownership, all these are promoted, and so that we can preserve. All right, Islam is concerned about private ownership. All right, that's why we have this. Why the punishment of cutting hand in Islam? Because Islam is concerned about the private ownership. All right, permission to trade, because Islam is concerned about distribution of wealth, distribution of resources, so that everyone can fulfill their needs. This is part of our Islamic economic concept. All right, when you talk, if you read Ibn Ashur, when he talks about the maqasid, the next level of maqasid in this preservation of wealth, he is talking about the transparency. He's talking about the fair distribution flow of wealth. All right, all this is part of affirmative measures. Protective measures, prohibition of violating the property of other, extravagance, theft, misappropriation. All right, all this is protective measures. All right, so Islam is prohibiting all this. All right, so Sheikh Shahran, I think that is all. Of course, this is not a complete discussion on maqasid yet. This is just an introduction for you to, like I have told you, the book, Jasir Auda's book, Maqasid Sharia for the Beginners. You can start with that book. If you are reading Arabic, you can look for Arabic books, Madkhal ila Maqasid Sharia. We have Yusuf Qaradawi, we have other scholars. Of course, if you want to go to the original works, you can go to Ash-Shatibi, Al-Muwafaqat, all right, and all these books, and then start the discovery, your adventure in this Maqasid discourse. Right, so Sheikh Shahran.
Yes. Thank you so much, Prof. Is a very they call it important, very substantial the discourse on Maqasid today taking a center stage in our Muslim world. So since our time is over, we will put it for a week. We try to read and try to understand. I will forward all the questions to you.
All right.
And you can highlight it next week. And at the same time, I will also forward to all brothers and sisters this book by Jasir Auda, by Hashim Kamali.
Yes, please.
We have the monograph.
Oh, that's good.
Which is around 15-20 pages for each book. It's easy reading. So we'll forward in the email and in WhatsApp. Till then, we'll see you next week, Prof.
Okay.
Continuation.